And welcome to another episode of All Things Aikido. I'm John Thompson out of North Texas, and today I'm very excited to have Tristan Chermack from Spirit Aikido. And we're having Tristan on today for more than a few reasons. One, I think he's a great guy, and I've had a relationship with him over social media for a bit now, and I like a lot of things that he says. But Tristan is also one of our first featured authors in the Aikido University. And for those of you who aren't aware, Aikido University will be a platform launching very soon. Actually, it's already up. If you check the byline or tagline underneath, you'll see a link. And I reached out to Tristan as perhaps being one of the first people to put up content on that platform. He accepted, and he put up a chapter on self-defense. If you don't know Tristan, he's the owner of Spirit Aikido in Minnesota. He also runs the Aikido, the martial side on Facebook, which has a extensive following from people all over the world and creates great dialogue on our art. He also has a podcast called Spirit Aikido, where has plethora of subject matter that he goes into detail. And recently, he's been adding some interviews with some pretty big names around the world. What I missed there, Tristan?
You did great. I think the only thing, and this is a really new one, as of last Saturday, I started doing a video breakdown of Randori. And the first episode that I chose was Gozo Shiota. And I took a bunch of clips of him doing his Randori and then showed like a technical breakdown of what I saw, the good things and what he was doing, the methods he was using. My goal is to create this as a series where we can start to look and learn from experienced people about what works in Randori. How can we take their example and learn from it so that we can have our Randori skills be that good? Randori is one of the things in Aikido that's probably at the top of my list for overall interest. Is, to me, Randori is where Aikido, the rubber meets the road. Like that's the pinnacle of having your Aikido really work.
And that was interesting because when we first started talking and collaborating with your project, Randori was one of the subjects that came up that you were very interested in making a lesson plan for. But I think you decided to maybe start a little bit more base level with your project. But I think that what we're going to see is there's going to be a building to that. So tell us about what you decided to focus in on for your first lesson in the Aikido University.
Well, firstly, I was very honored to be asked to take part in that project, especially to be one of the first people in there, instructors in there. And it was fortuitous because last November, I started a Spirit Aikido online program. And I started doing videos about last July or so. I started filming them. I wanted to get a number of them in the can so that I could go live. And I wound up going live November 1st. But within there, I wanted to take the approach that I think was the biggest change in my Aikido as my Aikido advanced. And that is after I opened my dojo and I started having my own students and having responsibility for my students. I mean, when I was assistant instructor to my own instructor, obviously I had responsibilities to his students, but I was working within sort of the parameters I was given. But now that I had my own dojo, I thought, these are my students. What am I going to do when it's my name on them? Essentially, it's my responsibility to build the skills in them. And I took a real hard look at that. And, I inherited a curriculum from my instructor in the organization that I was in. And I had great respect for that. I still do have great respect for everything I was taught. But I thought, if there was one thing that Aikido as an art overall tends to have, is the belief that you need to study it for 10, 12, 15, 20 years before it's really useful to you as a martial art or as self-defense. In fact, I asked around every seminar I'd go to. I would ask instructors, senior students. I said, you're a black belt. How long did it take of training for you before you felt like if someone came up to you and got in your face or started swinging at you, you would feel comfortable handling them, like from a self-defense standpoint? And the lowest number I got was about 8 years to 10 years. Most of the time I still am not comfortable. And this was after practitioners have been studying for 15, 20 years.
At least they were being honest.
Right. I never heard it about a year. I never heard 2 years. I never heard, 6 months. And, then I go back to Bruce Lee's statement. He says, you go train boxing for 6 months and wrestling for 6 months, and you will probably beat somebody who's been practicing martial arts for 5 years or more. I don't remember the exact number of years, but somebody who's got a lot more experience. And I thought, then I also looked at, for example, Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu or wrestling or boxing. And if you start any of those within 6 months, you'll have some pretty solid basic skills for defending yourself. And I thought, boy, there's no reason that Aikido can't do the same, or at least get in the same ballpark. I'm like, we're a martial art. We should not have to answer a potential student with saying, well, it's going to take 8 or 10 years, because we're in a world now where people don't have that kind of patience. They would like to see some results, and I don't think that's an unreasonable expectation. So I started looking at, all right, well, how would I go about reforming my curriculum, especially focused on those first 6 months with new students, to get them some reasonable self-defense skills.
That's a great place to kind of end on, and I really appreciate your time today. What, if anything else, would you like to say about your lesson, or just bump something that you're doing, or this is your time to?
Absolutely. The Aikido-based self-defense, although it does include my yellow belt, all the stuff that I put together for the yellow belt test, which I put up the test sheet list and taught all the techniques and everything. It's pretty much exactly like I teach it. You don't need to do a test with it. If you don't want to adopt it to a test, you can just handpick through and say, all right, I'd like to try these techniques. I explain these from an instructor standpoint of, here are some of the problems you're going to see from your students when you start to do this, some of the common mistakes they might make and what to watch for. You can really treat it as an a la carte kind of thing, which, that's how we all deal with our martial art. We pick and choose, I want to work on this today, or I want to try that, another day, I want to try this next, or so it's, if I remember right, we got just under 3 hours worth of content on there. So it's rich, but it's also to the point. I wanted to make sure, and everything that's on those videos is what needs to be there, without a lot of fluff, not a lot of wasted time. It's very rich. And I also want to include, if you have any questions about it, if you do sign up and take it, feel free to ask me questions, and I'm happy to answer questions and support them after the fact.
That's awesome. That's something we've been talking about in the team, and that's that interaction between the professor, for lack of a better word, since you're part of the university, and the students. And we've had some people question about that, and that's amazing. It gets back to that technology. No. One of the cool things about this project is we have people from all over the world starting to contribute, and we want more. You mentioned someone else who's putting out a lot of video content. So there's people out there who have a lot of content. It doesn't just have to be on the martial side or self-defense side or technique side. We're going to have lessons on relationship building in your life, business relations, how Aikido can kind of permeate all across those avenues. So we're trying to keep an open mind if you're interested in this project and want to join along.
Absolutely. And the last thing I want to mention is just, we're all contributing to this because we love the art. We love Aikido. I love Aikido. I'm sad to see that it's got such a bad reputation, and I'd like to see Aikido step up and say, we are a martial art. I want Aikido to be able to stand proudly alongside other practical martial arts and have them go look at us and go, all right, yeah, you guys have got some solid stuff. And there have always been instructors and dojos that have taught that way and produced those kinds of results, but they're kind of few and far between. And I think that right now we can use this online tool to start coming together and helping one another. And our part of it is to produce this content for those people that want to consume the content. Your ability to help us is going to be contributing. If you contribute, we can keep this thing going, and we can produce more content and bring it out. So everybody's part of the team, even if it's somebody who just decides to subscribe to a course, or even offer for somebody who's you've seen a lot of content on YouTube for free, just write and say, hey, can I contribute? Can I give you something for producing this great content? Like, that shows really good character. And I've had some people that have contributed to my podcast, even though I don't charge for it. I put out a PayPal tip jar, and if people want to toss in a couple of bucks because they think, hey, I like listening to this content. I think this is a new way, again, on the internet that people are going to use. People are going to be able to support the stuff they want to see more of. Unfortunately, we have to break the mold of the old consumer model where if you pay for it, you get it. If you don't pay for it, you get nothing. Now we're going to more of a kind of like a street musician. If you want to sit and listen to good music, be ready to toss in a couple of bucks. It helps them. It helps grow the art and have all of us grow together. So yeah, that's kind of how I would wrap it up. So
that's perfect, man.
look into a new age and a new era. And I think that open source martial arts, and this is kind of like that, you have the ability to take your art and go put what you want in it and do it as you see fit. And so I think this is going to, over the next 10, 20 years, I think this is going to replace old school organizations with the top down authoritarian type structure. And it's going to be tremendously liberating. People are going to be able to enjoy and learn what they want to learn and not be limited by their instructor or their organization.
Man, I really want to thank you for doing this and being part of this project. It was a pleasure to work with you. I will say if there's anyone else out there who's got a lot of video content, just ring me up. And if you haven't already, please go to Tristan's page on Facebook, Aikido the Martial Side. You will definitely see links below for that, and check out his podcast. And just go to his website as well. We'll put the link there. That's also a link to his other courses that aren't available yet. Just check this guy out. He's doing a lot of good work, and he's created a lot of good dialogue among people all over the world. So I'm glad to be part of the Aikido instructors group and Aikido University to support him. Thank you, Tristan.
And I've got a lot of exciting projects that I haven't been able to announce yet. So the last 3 months have been very busy. Things are heating up.
Cool.
And the course I produced was done 2 or 3 months ago. So I've been on to even bigger and better things, but those will be coming out soon. Got some great stuff.
Nice. All right, y'all have a good day.
Thank you, John.
Thank you.